Hey everybody, this is Chiefs beat writer Brooke Pryor, and on today's episode of Sports Beat KC, we talk about the inside linebackers, Eric Berry's health, and I talk to Bengals beat writer from ESPN.com, Katherine Terrell. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We are live at the Chiefs practice facility on a Thursday afternoon where we are being very serious and very grown up. We have Gigglebox Vahe Gregorian on this side of me and Gigglebox number 2, Blair Kirchhoff on the other side of me, who is back from behind the camera. You guys begged for him, and now he's here. And then we've got Lynn Worthy over here, rocking the yellow. I love it. Yep. It's like summer right now. I can't use my words. We are coming to you on a Thursday afternoon, which I think may be a shift that we do more often by doing it on Thursdays. Thanks for moving that. I was definitely going to knock that over. We get a chance to kind of get our week going a little bit, get some more information from the Chiefs, so we can then go ahead and preview the Sunday game with the most accurate information that we have. This Sunday, the Chiefs are going to play the Bengals in Arrowhead, another Sunday night football game, to make sure that you're just super, super tired Monday morning for work. So thank the Chiefs for being really good for that. But I'm excited. I've heard from everyone that it's going to be an electric atmosphere. There's going to be a whole lot of tailgating that's happening. But we should probably talk about what's actually going to be happening in that game. And let's start off with Blair. Today you were in Bob Sutton's press conference, and the first question asked was, hey, Bob, what's going on with those inside linebackers? So what is going on with those inside linebackers?
They're not playing good. Apparently not playing too well. We're talking about Anthony Hitchens and Reggie Ragland. And, coming into the season, we thought that was a strength. I don't know if a strength, but that was a position of non-concern.
Right. They'd addressed the problem.
Right. The problem, the run defense.
They were going to stop that run.
That run, in the words of Reggie Ragland.
We think that's what he said. We're still not sure.
They have done anything but stop the run, the pass, and all the other responsibilities that the inside linebackers have. And I'm going to do it for a story tomorrow, but there just seems to be a lot of hesitation with Anthony Hitchens on the field. And I go back to the game on the Sunday night game with the Patriots, and one of my lasting images of that game is Reggie Ragland just getting trucked. Looked like he was in position to make a tackle. Was it White? I can't remember who it was.
I think it was the what's his name? James, the third guy who came out of nowhere.
Yeah, White.
I'm probably messing up his first name, but it was like 28 or 38, or I forget the number. I think that's who it was.
Well,
Sony Michel?
Nope.
No.
I think it was the other one.
The one that we can't remember his name.
Just type watch Reggie Ragland.
It looked like he was covered in Crisco, the way Reggie Ragland just kind of fell off of him.
Just like I said, in position to make the tackle, and then all of a sudden Ragland was on the ground, the running back was by him. I thought, did he get hurt? What happened on
What
that
in the
play?
Sam Hill is going on?
So Bob Sutton did address it, and obviously you're not going to get answers from the defensive coordinator specifically about problems with players. But the fact that it was asked and discussed today, I thought was interesting enough to write about, and we'll say something about it tomorrow. I think for the most part, we're talking about Hitchens being a little hesitant on the field, and not being where he needs to be when he needs to be there. And Ragland, I just don't know. I just don't get it. Ragland was good the second half of last season. He just hasn't played well at all this year.
He hasn't. And to his credit, though, he is owning it after the games. I mean, nobody is using, I can't use my own words, he's being really forceful when he talks about it. He's coming out with really strong stances like, I've got to get better, we've got to get better. And he's owning the fact that he has not played well. And I think that, to his credit, that's something that some guys in that position would just, kind of brush to the side and not own it. But he has done that.
Well, key to this whole point is, I appreciate him doing that, as we should, but it starts with the very question that Bob Sutton was asked first today, I guess, and something we've been sort of talking about all along. We asked Bob Sutton about it in the last couple of weeks. How do you get these guys to play better? And look, we all know there's the fire Bob Sutton movement, and okay, that's fine. The defense stinks, and that he's ultimately responsible. But I do believe that the question we're seeing, I think most identifiably problematic, is they're not good enough. Now, we can think of probably 25, 30 plays that are quite absolutely on the player to make. I mean, whether it's Hitchens being dragged in the end zone in Denver, or 37-yard penalty for pass interference. Or, I mean, we've seen that over and over again. I mean, okay, some degree it's technique, some degree it's scheme, but the most obvious part of this is the two inside linebackers not tackling people. Or as one of us pointed out the other night, this is really true with Hitchens. He's getting a lot of tackles, but most of the time they're getting a little yak on him.
Well, yak, and he's making contact 5 yards, 6 yards down the field. He'll get into a space farther back than you'd expect him to get into that gap or space, and then he makes the tackle, but all of a sudden it's 2nd and 4, instead of 2nd and 8.
So just the actual point I really wanted to make before I rambled about nothing is these are seasoned pros who've got a track record. Two things. Can we expect them to get better during the course of a season? Ought we to expect that?
Well,
is it possible?
Only in that every time we talk about this, every time coaches and players talk about it, they explore the idea of getting used to each other and communicating better, and that was again an issue today. I talked about it again today. That Ragland didn't have much of a preseason because of the knee injury, and he's like last year, he was slow to get started recovering from the injury that kept him out his rookie year in Buffalo. So there could be something to that. And look, but they're playing another good offense this week, and it's also true that they in the Chargers, the Steelers, and the Patriots especially, playing Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, and Tom Brady led offenses, good offenses, and that has to be expressed as well. Yeah. And Andy Dalton and A.J. Green in this Cincinnati Bengals offense is another really good offense. The second half of the season, that changes a little bit for the Chiefs, and we'll see. I don't think the Chiefs are prepared to not go with those two. I think they're going to ride Ragland and Hitchens and look for them to improve. And Terrence Smith, I guess we'll see maybe a little bit more of him. I know a lot of people have been asking about Ben Neiman. Is Neiman ever going to play? I can't tell you.
And the other thing is, too, this Bengals offense is one of the worst rushing offenses in the league. They have Gio Bernard and Joe Mixon, both guys, ironically, who I covered in college. This is the Brooke Pryor Bengals.
Schools, yeah.
Yes, they are. I will never forget Gio Bernard, the punt return for a touchdown against NC State. That was my 21st birthday, so it's really a miracle that I remember that.
Well, that happened before you celebrated the 21st birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely don't serve alcohol in that stadium.
Wink, wink.
And then Joe Mixon, of course, I saw the last 2 years at OU, or the last one of my first year at OU. But they only average 89 yards a game rushing. Granted, a lot of that has been because Joe Mixon has been out with this midseason knee surgery that he had coming into this weekend. He'll be playing in his third game back. And he's a really dangerous running back. He's a guy that not only runs the ball really well, but he can also be a pass catcher out of the backfield. And he's just a really dynamic threat that I think this team could have some trouble with. But then again, as someone asked me in my Twitter Q&A, which Bengals guy is going to end up looking like an all-pro running back? And, Joe Mixon could be that guy this week.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, it's just a matter of consistency is the thing that I think just sort of bothers me the most when I look at it, is because you see guys, whether it's Ragland, Hitchens, or other guys, but particularly them, you see them make plays at times, but then other times they're just not in the spot or not getting off blocks or getting off blocks late. And so it's, I think that's probably the more frustrating part, where it was just like, okay, a guy can't play. But the fact that you do see the plays and then other times you just don't see them is the part that's like, well, and it gets people looking for answers, like, the folks on Twitter want to see, whether it's Dorian O'Daniel or Ben Neiman or all these people, just because they haven't seen them, as though that's going to make a difference. But it's the fact that you see it sometimes and you don't see it enough, and you don't see it, you definitely don't see it all the time, is the part that makes it so frustrating in terms of what do you do to fix it.
And Jordan wants to know, can we assign a percentage to the problem? How much of this is a player problem and how much of this is a Bob Sutton problem?
Well, I've seen it suggested by analysts that that Sutton's defense can be complicated, and there's just a lot of learning that has to happen. And Hitchens is new. It took Ragland about a half a season to get comfortable in it last year, and he did play pretty well in the second half of last year.
Well enough that you felt
Pretty
confident
good
that
going into
that
this
was
season, right.
that was clogged up and safe
Right.
and good.
But Hitchens is, he's an important guy. Doesn't come off the field. He's got the green dot, and his pass coverage hasn't been good, and like I said, he doesn't seem to be in a position often to make the run stopping tackle that you expect. So I do think some of it is scheme. A bit of it is scheme, and Hitchens especially getting used to what Bob Sutton and the Chiefs defense expect of him.
Mentioning the scheme, Jordan also wants to know, is a move to a 4-3 defense on the horizon?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
No, certainly
It seems
not.
like one of those overhaulish kind of things that you don't do mid-season.
I mean, the defense is
I
bad,
think,
but I think
but-
that would make it worse.
I also think that if Eric Berry were playing, if Justin Houston were playing, if you had your top line guys in there, it wouldn't be as obvious.
Right.
It wouldn't be happening. It
Look,
wouldn't be obvious because it wouldn't be happening.
Right. Each thing changes the dynamic, right? That's the thing. And I always refer to the Sam line about injuries, the ballad of the loser, whatever you want to call it. But we've got legitimate reason to think Justin Houston's back soonish, right? Is that what?
He didn't practice this week.
What was
So I mean, I'm not
Not too
anticipating him
soon.
this week, but
Yeah, not practicing
within a couple
today.
weeks, right? And I don't know what we're supposed to say about Eric Berry anymore. I mean, I really don't. But I guess I still feel like the back half of the season is what they're aiming for, and better then than now.
Anybody
If
have a
that's-
new theory on Eric Berry?
I heard another one. I can't remember when we talk about it in the Facebook Live, or I can't remember if it was a radio conversation about how maybe they were saving him. Was that what Sam said? Saving him for the back half of the season, letting him figure out when he was good to go.
That's
I like
Sam's
that.
contention in
That's
print
Sam's
the other day.
Yeah,
and-
I'll add
Let
on
me just
that.
borrow Sam's idea as my own. I thought it was great.
Well, I didn't even try to attribute it. I was just
I just absolutely stole it. But I'll add to that to say, you and I, Vahe, have been around for the playoff losses the last few years, and each time they seem to be missing a pretty critical defensive component in the game for injury. Barry last year, Houston against the Patriots in 15, and they're banged up, they're shorthanded. Oh, most teams are, but for the Chiefs, it just seems to be a critical defensive player in the playoffs. I think we've established that this team's going to be able to win games without Houston, without Barry, and going forward. And maybe this whole thing is going to be, let's go to the postseason as healthy as we possibly can. And that could be having Barry sit till week 14, 15, something like that. Give him a couple games to get his game speed back. Perhaps. I don't know.
What's really interesting about what you're saying to me is to what degree these conversations are being had behind the scenes, and to what degree it's just we don't know.
Wild speculation.
Yeah.
Just kind of wild.
Very wild.
But the fact that he doesn't play week to week, and we get the same, making progress, day to day,
Literally day to day.
Literally, yeah. That it allows the imagination to run
Well,
wild.
it does. And look, actually, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm thinking I want to know they're having those kind of talks and thinking that way. I'm not really sure why they wouldn't be willing to talk about that publicly, except for they just don't want to share anything. But, I mean, wouldn't it be nice to hear Andy say, we just feel like if we're going to get to Atlanta, where Eric's from,
Right.
this is the chance to do it.
That's
and
our best chance.
Help us stop speculating, because that's what we all think anyway. Just
Yeah, and
Go
we
ahead
want
and
you to
confirm
help
it.
us stop speculating.
Yeah, well,
only you can stop speculation.
I guess the thing that keeps coming back more and more in my head is just that if this is one of those, okay, we're going to wait to get him as healthy as possible, or we're trying to aim towards a certain part of the year. I mean, it's been over a year, and I don't really hear many people talking about how good is he going to be when he gets back after out all that time. I mean, what if he comes back and he's not what he was? He's not that much better than what you have out there, and you're just sort of taking for granted that he's going to come back in there and change everything. I mean, going into the season, thinking that he was healthy and he was going to be back, I thought, okay, he's going to be an upgrade. But now it's like, well, if he comes in mid-season, just for one, we don't know how healthy he's going to be, if he's going to look different. And then two, guys have to get used to playing with him again, and he hasn't played with a lot of this secondary because it's, Parker came back, so it's not an entirely new group, but we don't know what that's going to look like. We're just sort of taking for granted he's going to come back and make that defense better. What if he doesn't?
I find it interesting, though, that when we see some practice, the little practice time that we get, especially when we're indoors and we go up into the indoor practice facility, how he's Coach Barry. He's there, next to Al Harris and Emmett Thomas, and he's right there talking to the guys, and he is as involved as an injured player can be during a practice. I think that's his way of showing that he still cares. He wants to be there. He is doing what he can to help this team along. And you're right. He would be playing with some new guys, and we don't know the extent to which he would be healthy or effective when he comes back. But I got to tell you, just watching this guy play, it's only been off and on, but for the last 5 years, he's a special player.
My thought is kind of a fusion of both what you guys are saying, right? You can't assume he's going to be the same speed, but you can assume the same instinct and same fire and this is sort of the intangible, but it matters, the same impact on his teammates. Now I realize that doesn't make up for getting burned by a step on a post but it I think no matter what, the overall impact will still be substantial. I just do. Now, what I would project would be he's back for a game, and you see the rust in that game. And then by game 2 or 3, he's about what he is. But, of course, we don't even fully know the nature of the injury, so we don't know how it's going to affect his speed. It's a really bizarre situation.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other question. How likely are we to see at the end of the season both Eric Berry and Daniel Sorensen on the field together? Is that on the table?
I think it is on the table.
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
I think Sorensen for sure. I'm questioning
Sorensen's
more and more every week that we're going to see
Which
Berry.
is crazy that after that injury that Sorensen had at the beginning in training camp, that we're now talking about him coming back before Eric Berry.
Andy gave an answer
on
on this yesterday, and I don't really recall his words, but he was asked specifically about Sorensen. He may have just done a.
He said
he's
that,
getting better.
Well, he said this. He said not.
Literally
You wouldn't likely see him this week, but that he was getting close. Of course, because of the comments about Eric Berry being close. Because I think even I tweeted it. I put close in quotes because of all the Eric Berry stuff. That you can't really take close as meaning much right now.
Under NCAA rule, under NFL, he's eligible to return to practice because of his IR status.
And we've seen him more often in the last week than we had previously. I mean, he was walking around the locker room in the practice field, and I literally didn't know who he was. It took me a second to be like, oh, yeah, there is another safety who we haven't seen or talked about.
That's interesting you say that.
Around.
By the way, I don't recall seeing him since the injury. Has he been rehabbing off-site?
No,
I think
we just don't see him in the room when we're there.
He's been in the locker room.
I just haven't seen him.
And I'm sure he's been working out.
Yeah, I think he's been here. I mean, I want to say there was one day when we went upstairs that you will cut through that cafeteria, and he was in there.
Okay.
I mean, obviously,
he's just been hiding.
I think he's been around. Maybe he's been doing his stuff early, but I remember there was one time a couple of weeks back that I would cut through, and I was like, wait a minute, is that? And it was him. He was sitting in there, so he's been around. It's just
and well, look, also whatever schedule he's on rehabbing has absolutely nothing to do with, or nor should it, with time that we're in the locker room.
Right.
I mean,
In fact, I would
true.
guess that they maybe specifically keep him out of there.
Maybe, but he's certainly not going to be available to us even if he is,
Right.
and that's, we understand that. It's just, but back to your point real quick, Blair, about Eric Berry being omnipresent. He hasn't left. He's fully engaged with the team is how I see it. Last year, this is, a faint ray of optimism, but last year he was, in full rehab mode. Seems to me, I could be remembering wrong, but he was gone for weeks at a time, and he'd be like, oh, Barry's here. Well, it's not like that now. Again, that might be just a slight glimmer of hope, but it's as if he is part of everything.
Including the pregame
Pregame huddle.
The pregame
He's
huddle.
always the guy at the center of it. He's always the one that's saying
Right.
the last thing before they go off the field to get ready to then come back out.
Yep.
Well, while we're still talking about defense, Andrew wants to know our thoughts on Justin Houston. Is he done? D. Ford, is he the future? Passanio, is he getting it? And Breland Speaks, is there promise? Anybody want to take a crack at any four of those?
Well, one quick thing. We'd be talking about Breland Speaks differently right now if he just held on to Brady there, right? And he literally in the grasp. And he also had another meaningful play there. And I think you've been kind of a Breland guy.
Well, I was going to say I don't know if we'd really be talking about that differently just because that play was going to get wiped out.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I also, if we watched the replay of it was the Tom Brady touchdown run, right? Speaks didn't. I don't think he was ever in a position to bring him down. I think, and then when he was behind him, he had a bad angle to try to get him again. I could be totally wrong about that, but I remember watching the replay and thinking, well, Speaks had him for a second. Brady's an athlete himself. He was able to get away, and then he realized nobody was in front of him. Went the 3 yards for the touchdown. I just think the whole thing's been mischaracterized. I don't think Speaks let go because even though we said it after the game that he was afraid.
Maybe he just decided he let go.
I just didn't see it that way. Maybe I'm the only one who didn't see it that way.
Well, look, the bigger question really is his development. How are you all feeling about that? I think he's a young player.
I think he looked a lot better this game than he had in the previous ones. The last sack, missed sack, whatever aside.
Are we judging first and second year people a little too fast at times?
Yeah.
Listen,
yes.
but other NFL teams play their first and second year guys, and they're effective.
There's a quarterback here who seems to be getting it down. Okay.
Right.
Your guy.
So if he can, why can't everybody else?
But each position is different, right? Each
Right.
position is absolutely its own challenge, and the dynamics of it are all over the map. But anyway, I don't want to just give a free pass, but I don't think there's any final judgments to be made about this. I don't think, by the way, to his first point there, I don't think Houston's done by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
I did feel a little alarmed though when the injury first came up, and Andy immediately actually made it sound kind of dire, like it's going to be a couple of weeks. Like normally Andy's like,
Justin Houston's.
He'll be back. Yeah, he'll be back soon. Andy's like, a couple of weeks. Yeah. That makes you think it's going to be 3 years.
They immediately start talking about it too, like, Brett Veach is already looking at other outside linebackers to bring in.
And they bring in 2.
What is this information? Why are we getting this? This must spell gloom and doom. And have we seen Justin Houston?
I haven't seen him.
I haven't seen him in the
He was on the
locker room.
sideline because I remember seeing.
He was, but I haven't seen him this week.
I haven't seen him. Shoot, I'm trying to remember what day was that. There was a day when I thought I saw him, but I don't remember when that was. And it was a quick, and of course he wasn't available to speak to anybody, but I thought there was. But I know he was on the sideline. I just remember from the broadcast that they were showing shots of him on the sideline. Wow.
I know the Chiefs felt pretty good about the position group when they cut to 53 because they only kept 4. The four that were mentioned, and they'd always kept 5 before. 5 inside guys, 5 outside guys, and they went with 4 this time. And I think they just felt with Ford and Houston as your starters, and then the idea was going to play Speaks and Passanio maybe more and have it more of a rotation than a first team, second team. And look, defense has been bad all around this year. The stats bear it out. There's just no denying it. They're on NFL record pace for yards surrendered in a year. But Bob Sutton made this point today, and I don't disagree with it, that they probably affected the quarterback more than we give them credit for that. And they do have, I don't know what their sack total is, but
and I think it's not. I can't remember the number. I usually bring that stat sheet in. They're not great. They're not
Right.
bad.
I want to say I checked on Pro Football Focus, and the pass rush was like number 4, I think.
Oh, is that right?
I believe.
Is that a pressure gauge,
Yeah,
so to
let's
speak?
see.
Well, I mean, D. Ford was at one point leading edge rushers.
ranking
in
all
pressures.
32 NFL teams' pass rush units. Number 5, Kansas City Chiefs. They're getting total team pressure percentage 35%, pressure percentage when blitzing 56%. Top pass rusher is D. Ford.
Yeah, I think that ranking is based a lot on what D Ford's accomplished this year. He's having a good
D Ford's
year.
the entire pass rush.
Right.
So.
Well, that's right. And
Well, I mean, there's been was it Bailey's had he have 4 sacks
Yeah, he's
already
played
in his
really
career
well.
highs, like 5. So I mean, you've had a few guys.
Chris Jones is
Chris
part of
Jones,
this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris
Jones has been huge.
And as our friend Therese always says, the contract year is undefeated, and this is a contract year for D Ford, and
He's going to get paid if he.
and he's absolutely
keeps
going to
it
get
up.
paid with this. He seems to be playing through injury too. I mean,
Yeah. Good point.
So he's having a whale of a year.
Yeah, and by the way, we've had a couple people ask why Eric Berry was not put on IR, and I think we talked about this a little bit Sunday. I don't remember if we did it on camera or it was one of our discussions off of it, but the general consensus was when Sorensen started off the year on IR, you can only bring 2 guys back from it. You hope that the prognosis is that Sorensen can come back. Well, you don't want to put Eric Berry on there if he's going to be the other guy that comes back, because that leaves you no wiggle room for in-season injuries. And they've already had quite a few: Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, Armani Watts,
Mitch Morse
now, but he's not on IR at least.
No.
But those Armani Watts and Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, I don't know if either one of those guys will come back. I mean, Duvernay-Tardif, you thought so, but with the complication of the ankle injury included in that doesn't sound great. Armani Watts, core muscle injury related to the groin injury. I mean, the core muscle injury is not, that kind of generally spells doom.
Yeah, just a quick aside about Mitch. I guess we've gotten no further updates other than he's in the protocol, right? But I do worry about him. He's got a bit of a concussion history, and look, it's the elephant in the room at all times. And Mitch will come back, but I just at what point do these things start accumulating in such a way that you wish he wouldn't? And he's like my favorite guy. I don't mean it that way, but I'm worried. I'm worried about it.
While we're talking about the offensive line, earlier this week the Chiefs signed Jeff Allen, the guy who they drafted in 2012. He played here from 2012 to 2015. Was with the Texans for a couple years. Was released. It was an injury thing, right?
Correct.
And now he is back here. Blair, you talked with him a little bit today. What does his addition bring to this team?
Yeah, Lynn and I were there when he was kind of holding court today. Look, I think it's a great call by the Chiefs. Guy who knows the system, knows the coaches. Once he gets out of his car in the parking lot, knows right where to go, and doesn't have to ask for directions once he gets into the building. And he was good. I remember him as a good player, versatile.
Little edge.
Yeah, got a little edge to him.
Yeah.
And I remember when the Chiefs didn't make an offer for him, I was disappointed because I thought he was worth.
He sounded like he was a little disappointed too.
He was worth bringing back.
I thought it was like Dorsey used to say, he's a chief.
Yeah.
Of course, he said that about Jamal Charles after he cut him. But
right.
But really, that's what I felt about him.
You wrote a good story about him.
He was interesting. He was an interesting guy to talk to, and about kind of his
background.
his origins and background, and he's a colorful guy, and he's, I think, as they say, a good guy in the room. And Brooke did a story today. It was I thought a nimble reaction time. You got the old twice as a coincidence, 3 times as a trend story mentality when they brought Allen back, and you thought about Zombo and Parker coming back, and it's true they've done something there, and it was also, I think, smart of you to bring in some of the other reference points there about how they've got guys coming up. They like to have a system here of Alex Smith nurturing Patrick and things like that. But maybe the best part of Brooke's story was probably something that never got in print, which was what we call share text that we have at the Star, when you're supposed to send this out, and what to put atop it when you send it out. And Brooks was, "You again?" Question mark.
Sometimes I get a little snarky right in the share text because I love doing it so much. So that was my little jab at that. But I mean, yeah, it is their thing. And I wish that I had also mentioned Eric Berry and his, granted, like, he isn't being brought back in, but he is doing that kind of coach mentor role in a way that the Chiefs like to do. But Ron Parker has been mentoring Jordan Lucas, Jeff Allen. He has to get caught up and up to speed, but maybe he ends up mentoring a guy like Khalil McKenzie, who we've had some questions about his development. Maybe that's what Khalil McKenzie has been missing. And then you also have Frank Zombo, who was essentially living the retired life in Michigan, still working out, but he'd had some other teams say, "Hey, come work out for us," and he said no. I know that the Chiefs, when they get an opportunity, will bring me back, and he, I think, will play kind of the same role with some of those linebackers.
Back to the offensive line for a second. Jeff Allen, I'm pretty sure, won't start this week, but I think he has potential to be a starter here. He was a starter here when he left. He was a starter in Houston. But when Mitch went down, I think it was in the second quarter, was it not, on Sunday night? So Andrew Wiley has to step in and play. They moved Jordan Devey to center. Andrew Wiley comes in and plays guard, and this was the first real pro regular season experience. Like he told me the other day, he was like, all preseason or all training camp before that. But he got 32 snaps, and this, look at what the offense did in the second half of that game. So I'm just not giving credit to the offensive line, but I'm just saying that there wasn't a drop off in the second half for the Chiefs up in New England.
Well, and I think too that we talked about a little bit about this at, I believe, 3 or 4 a.m. About how there also wasn't a drop off because of Patrick's relationship and friendship with Jordan Devey, who was his center during scout team the year before. But you mentioned Jeff Allen; he could start. Whose job do you think he would end up taking on that line?
Well, like all the offensive linemen, he's versatile. I mean, he could play guard or tackle. I would imagine Andrew Wiley would go back to. They got Jordan Devey at center, so I think Jeff Allen would probably go in at guard. But we'll see. Hey, they may play lights out this weekend. You never know.
And is Jeff going to get snaps this week? Is that the idea? We don't know for sure.
I think if he, I don't know.
Because it's really like a preseason game for him, right?
Yeah, right. He hasn't played this season. He had an injury settlement departure from the Texans, so he's been hurt as well. But he said he was fine. He says he's back, and the Chiefs wouldn't have signed him otherwise. So, I don't know. Usually, when the offensive lineman, when you're looking at the player participation sheets, it always starts with offensive linemen taking 100% of the snaps each game. You don't shuffle guys in on the offensive line. So the only way to get in is if someone gets hurt. So I think he'd be ready to go if someone did get hurt. But I don't expect we'll see him take snaps.
Probably not ideal, right? Yeah, yeah.
Well, and as sexy as it is to talk about the offensive line, let's talk about the skill players a little bit.
Can we talk about the offensive line?
We covered them for like 5 minutes. If you want more offensive line, read Blair's story when he writes about Jeff Allen later this week. But Lynn talked to Sammy Watkins is going to write about him later and about his changing mentality from when he first entered the league to where he is now. What have you kind of learned from talking with him?
Well, it was interesting because in Buffalo, there were time periods where he literally went to reporters and said, I need to be targeted 10 times. Like, he put out the number 10, not like more, like 10 is what I need to have. I don't need to have 100 yards a game. And he talked, just even now about, this week about just how that's been different. How that was sort of an ego thing, how he thought because he was a first-round pick, 4th overall, that he was supposed to have these sorts of things and that he needed to have 1,000 yards. And that's something that he's sort of gotten perspective on. Part of it from the time that he was injured, and then part of it just last year being part of that Rams offense that put up, ridiculous numbers. And he was a 3rd or 4th receiver in that group. And he thinks it's helped him handle the situation he's in now where he's really, 3rd option, when you look at Kelsey and Tyreek and even, the NFL's leading rusher last year who's had some big pass plays. He's 3rd or 4th guy in that mix.
Do we expect at any time, Andy's had a little tendency to do this. I think we could say, of course, we know it all depends on the reads, right? But I thought Andy, there was a bit of a emphasis on Tyreek in the opener, right? It was
they schemed it, game planned it, saw something that they were able to take advantage of. But of course, it was a punt return and
that's true.
The first
and then
RPO of the year that went
yeah.
for 60 yards, and
but one way or another, it got certainly Tyreek heavy, and it does look like they've tried to. I think I used this term the other day, and nobody knew what it meant. But prime the pump a little with Sammy. You kids, that means back in the day, you couldn't get water. Anyway, but
you didn't have to pump a well to get water.
Well, but not before my time. But Blair is a little older.
Oh wow!
Wow. But and they have made some kind of effort like that with Sammy at times, right? Mm-hmm. But I do wonder. One of the things Andy will do, it seems to me, is one game he might go heavy on one guy. One game it's diversifying. One game it's a different facet of the offense that's being emphasized. So I just wonder if the roulette wheel will just point heavy to Sammy sometime and say, this is what we need to do to really feel like we get this guy going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Eric Bieniemy said this today, and I think we've all known it to be true, but to hear him say it again, you say, yeah, I guess that's right, that there are no decoys among receivers here. Everybody's an option when the play begins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the numbers bear that out. I mean, the fact that every wide receiver except Marcus Kemp has a touchdown reception, right? At least one.
That's crazy.
Everybody's an option on any play, so you don't have to. I think it was asked in terms of somebody was asking about Sammy. Does he handle if he's not going to be targeted on a play? Does he handle that?
Yeah. I think I had asked about that because
I thought that was a good point. I thought it was a really nice point.
Yeah, and he talked about he's still doing everything that they want him to do. He's still he talked about, and it wasn't just him, but I think he talked about all the guys handling not being the so-called primary option and still running your play hard, and how there's not a it might be a primary option in this play, but depending on what the defense does, that changes. That changes like that, who the primary option is. And then also, I think it was BJ mentioned, not to mention you got this quarterback running around that can change everything too on a play.
Exactly.
And we've seen that happen this season.
So it's a way for everybody to stay engaged on every play, right?
Yeah.
And so if everybody's an option, I think we saw in the Steelers game how it had been all Tyreek against the Chargers. So we go to Pittsburgh and boom, different guys getting, they took care of Kelsey, get his, consecutive game catch streak out of the way early. Watkins had his reception, DeMarcus Robinson had his. So everybody's up and engaged and feeling confident about the offense. I just think it's smart football.
Yeah.
It's just smart football.
Yeah. There's so many factors on how every play plays out, right? I mean,
Yep.
But I've just seen Andy do different things that way. It is interesting just thinking about Andy. Blair brought this up in a conversation the other day. We'll write about this soon, probably not till it actually happens, but he's on the cusp of this 200th win, and to what degree the rules are contoured in some ways to the offensive brainiac. But, of course, the offensive brainiac needs his defense to play.
I think he would prefer not to win shootouts. He prefers to win, but if some of these are not shootouts.
I prefer the shootouts. Give me exciting.
You're not going to say that Sunday night, pal.
Deadlines are going to be shot anyway.
Noon game. Oh, that's true.
Noon game shootouts are the best.
Yeah, give me a noon game shootout.
7:30 shootouts, not so much.
Yeah, I'm already going to be. If it's a noon game, I'm already not going to leave the stadium until 8 o'clock. Give me something exciting to watch for those hours that we're there. We're paying good money, or being paid good money, or neither.
Oh, I like it. You're actually paid. I would pay to do this job, she said.
No, I wouldn't. Please still give me a paycheck.
We'll pay good money to be here.
By the way, we've had a couple people ask, is Derek Johnson coming back? No.
I don't believe so.
Andy Reid said yesterday, asked about it, he said, I don't believe that's the direction we're going in. But as Brandon mentioned, maybe he could be the linebackers coach. I think if he's done playing, that is certainly up in the air. That's up for debate.
It's totally up in the air that way. I hadn't thought about that yet because maybe he's going to refuse to say my career's done.
Right,
but
that's a hard decision for any guy to make.
I bet you if we looked around our archives, we would have quotes of Andy saying he's going to be a great coach one day. We'd like him to be a coach here when he's done.
I think they said that when they decided not to resign.
Yes, that's exactly when they said it. That's right.
And that was one of those player departures where Clark Hunt had his say, Andy, and Brett Veach, everybody weighed in on that, and.
But then he went and signed with the Raiders.
And was a captain for the Raiders.
Yeah,
I've never seen a captain get cut mid-season. By the way,
Look, I'm just glad we're not going to ever see him play against the Chiefs for the Raiders, right? I think that's good for everybody.
For somewhere, but
but just not for the Raiders. Yeah,
the Raiders are kind of hot garbage right now. So
it's true.
Sorry if you're watching John Gruden, but we're not saying anything that everybody in the world doesn't know. And we've also had a couple of questions from Chris and Jordan about what's going on with Nate Orchard. I don't think really anything. He's new. He's getting adjusted.
He didn't get a snap in that last game, but between Speaks and D Ford and Zombo got some time, but even most of his was on special teams. I think they basically put Breland Speaks out there and just let him play, which I think now, we talk about how much time he's gotten. I don't remember the exact total, but I think by now he's also, through the first 6 games, played more as a rookie than D Ford did his rookie season in terms of defensive snaps. And this is a guy who's also changing the positions too. So I think they want him to get that experience and for them to get a real read on what he can do. I mean, I think, who was it, Bob Sutton and a couple of defensive coaches, when asked about how do you know about a guy, they'll give you, the answer, well, you think you know because of this, that, and the other, but you really don't know until you get him out there in the game. And so I think that's part of what they're doing with Speaks.
Okay.
I think so too. And I know Sam's usually our guru guy when we talk about trades and what's going to happen and what moves they could make, but there have been lots of questions. Peter wants to know, what additional picks do we have as leverage to trade for defensive players? Is there an extra second-round pick? And is, for the trillionth time, is Patrick Peterson coming here? And if not, who are some other options that we think could be added to this roster?
Well, they do have 2 second-round picks. They have a first and 2 seconds.
That's the key one, right?
That was for the Marcus Peters trade. They got a 2 and a 4 and sent a Marcus in the 6th or something like that.
I think that's what it was, exactly.
It was.
Yeah.
So there is some. They do have a chip. They could play.
And by the way, I think incentive to play it.
Yes,
At this point,
yeah.
this could be a Super Bowl team.
yeah.
So
I guess that's assuming, of course, that the second round pick is what teams are after, because I don't think there's any way they give up a second year in a row, because last year they went without a first round pick. So I think
I'd be astonished.
Yeah, so I think if
that.
that's part of the asking price, I think it's a non-starter because of that.
Well, but keep this in mind too. Their first round pick and then their first pick in the second round may be pretty close together because they're going to be picking late in the first round, and we don't know what the positions are yet for both of the second round picks. But the way the season's going, they're going to be picking 29, 30, 31, 32.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and maybe it does affect that, right? You're thinking the difference between 28 and
hey, how many times did the Patriots
39?
Move a guy like so. I don't know. In terms of who's available, Patterson's the one we keep. He's the name that's most prominent. What position are we looking at, though? I mean, are we looking? They played their 5th and 6th safeties against the Patriots the other night. I don't think we made enough of that. They played their 2nd and 4th outside linebackers in that game because they didn't have Houston and Passanio. So, but I think they feel they're okay at outside linebacker for now, especially with the acquisition. Secondary, I guess, is what we'd be looking at for.
Well, look, go ahead.
I say Jordan Lucas did look really good back there. Granted, he was way deep in that depth chart. He was absolutely buried, but I think
he did look good. I
thought he looked really good.
I thought so too, but they're out. Watts is not playing the rest of the year.
No.
And Eric Murray came back, right?
Murray practiced this week. I think he was a full participant yesterday, if I remember right.
Yeah,
so
full participant from that ankle thing.
Yeah. So so you'll have at least 3, right? Because you'll have Parker, Lucas, Murray, and then I think who's the 4th one?
Watts.
It's healthy that you'll be able to.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so, at least you won't have to. You likely won't be looking at Marcus Kemp. Yeah. They add him.
Safety.
And well, that's right. So it's going to be 3 because McQuay is now.
Not even on.
Yeah, he's not on there anymore. So they had added him briefly.
I think one thing you have to ask that has to be asked is if they're looking. Well, this was the conversation with Earl Thomas. Would you trade a second-round pick for somebody that you may only have for 10 games? Is it worth 10 games? And to me, the answer is if you think you're that close, you make the Ben Zobrist trade, right? Or
That's exactly,
deal.
or even the Cueto deal, whatever.
Deal.
I realize the parallels are imperfect, but bottom line was, in that instance, the Royals gave up part of their future.
Yep.
With good, important minor league guys,
and paid off as greatly as it could pay off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of that's exactly what the situation feels like here because, you hope that you have you're able to replicate the same offensive success that they're having this year in the future, but who's to say?
You don't know, but one thing that is a little different than those Royals, of course, contracts are a whole other matter, but so in which case it'll be similar to that, but there's a little bit of more of a window here, isn't there, with the youth of.
Yes.
Sammy's the oldest of that. Kelsey's the oldest of that group at 29 or whatever, but Sammy's the oldest of the next set of emerging 3-headed monsters, whatever they have. 25. So I think Tyreek is 24, 23. Kareem is 23.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick's 23.
All their
So-
rookie contracts. So
Yeah.
But Tyreek will be coming up, and you've got to keep that in mind
Well,
as far as the
that's-
money.
that's
true.
That's going to be
That's going to cost
right
a
around the
lot.
corner.
yeah. Next year is the year of that they've got to get that figured out. So, but you're right. You make a good point. I do not see a 104 loss season coming for the Chiefs in 2 years, 3 years. I don't see it.
So yeah, so some of the parallels are just
I don't see it. Or a 3-13.
yeah, no, right.
They're
me
not
neither.
trading. They won't be trading the future.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. But we've been going here for a little bit. We should go ahead and, I would say, talk about the Bengals game specifically in the form of, let's do some predictions. Let's do some how we think it's going to happen. And then we can all start writing, since that is also what we have to do today.
If you'd like, let me start only because I'm here representing Sam.
The proxy.
Has he texted in your info? Sam's not
And-
even watching. It's not showing up over here. So
Oh, boy, he's
Yeah.
really been exposed here.
so
Wow. Thanks for the
sad.
support.
That is so
While you
Thanks,
break,
Sam.
While you break a story.
yeah.
Anyway, Sam says that the Chiefs will win 34-20, and I think he wanted me to include this part because the Bengals are frauds. He may not have wanted me to include that part. I'm not sure.
You're just giving him
But
bulletin board
He
material.
didn't say off the record. So that's what Sam thinks. So I think, and I think when I mentioned that to beforehand, there were some surprises about the low score prediction for the Bengals. But if you think they're frauds and you think there's room for improvement on this Chiefs defense, oh, okay,
You remember the last time they played in the regular season, Bengals and Chiefs?
I do.
For a couple of reasons,
For
right?
a couple of yeah, exactly. It was. We know of the no. We always talk about the no punt. I guess it was sort of a no punt game the other day, just for the Patriots.
A one
But
punter.
that was the
all-
no touchdown game for the
the all
Chiefs.
field goal game.
6 was it 18
Seven.
points?
Yeah,
21.
They lost 35-21.
By our
I think it was
guy
30.
Cairo Country.
Cairo Country. Yeah.
That's where all it could get to was Cairo Country. They couldn't get any farther into the end zone.
Kicked 7 field goals.
And then of course also the meow. Or whatever it was that every time the Bengals scored, there was. Oh no, but they introduced the players, right? Meow. I
That's the
took us.
wimpiest meow I've ever heard.
I think
It's
it was
always-
about that level.
That's all he's
Meow.
he's imitating.
Did you agree with that? It was
Yeah,
kind of like
and I think after
a sick
touchdowns or
cat.
extra points, it was
yeah, it was a little more when it was like.
Man, what a home field advantage the Bengals must have.
they kicked the Chiefs' ass that day.
Probably because of the sick cat. That's the secret. It freaks out the other team so much that they just give up. And they're just like, sick cat casino, sick cat stadium.
How about
I like
30?
Yeah,
Casinos.
casino. I like that. It's an endorsement.
38-31 Chiefs, a lot of touchdowns, 1 field goal each.
It's remarkably similar to your pick last week.
I think
Did
we
you
were all
just copy
pretty.
paste?
We were all within a
your
point,
pick from
We
last
were
basically.
week?
all. What's that?
I said, did you just copy and paste
How
your
do
pick
how
from
do you
last
not
week?
how do you not pick the Chiefs to score a bunch and give
Yeah.
up a bunch? I mean,
Yeah. Sounds about right.
No,
By the way, I'm proud of myself because my pick last week, I believe, was a field goal differential.
I think you're right.
And that's what it was. So I'm going to pat myself on the back. Win.
Yeah.
I guess I'll give it a 38-21 Chiefs. This
Oh,
time around. I'm giving them
you're really
7
feeling
field
this.
goals
Yes,
by the
I'm-
Bengals.
There it is. Yeah, payback. We got all stuck on 38 last week, and I'm gonna go there. I like
I'm
38.
I'm stuck on
Totally
it as
missed
well.
the hell out of it, right?
We were all pretty good. I kind of
Yeah.
felt good about
Yeah.
that. And plus, like they say, they don't pay us to get it right. They just pay us to pick it. So
If they're still paying us.
so I'm going to flip it and go 38-33.
Ooh.
Bengals, right?
No, you know what? A little less. I'm sorry.
Don't be flipping it.
Chiefs at 38-26. The Bengals
you
got that
cheat
last
and look
touchdown
at
rubbed
my
out.
page?
Did you have?
I literally just
No,
wrote
I didn't.
down-
I didn't look. I didn't look.
I wrote down 38-27 for the record.
Well-
Right after I wrote down Bengals are frauds, then I wrote down
I really didn't look. I really didn't look
38-27.
down.
I think we all
I just
had
took a touchdown off the board in my
I think
head.
everybody had the Chiefs to lose last week except Sam. Didn't Sam pick the?
No, I picked the
You
Chiefs.
did. I knew one did, but not a bad pick. You looked pretty good in the fourth quarter
Well,
after that comeback.
You know, if like Andy and Bob pointed out, if they handled Gronk up until the last 7, they got the minute 7:20. Yeah, they had the minute down too. They kept bringing that up.
Gosh,
But
Did Bob use the same time?
I'm not sure if he did it in there, but I think he did it talking to somebody outside. So before he came in.
Yeah.
So that came up again. But Gronk, they got Gronked twice. Once to set up a field goal that tied it, and then the game-winning field goal.
Yeah.
Well, there's no Gronk this week. There's no Tyler Eifert. There's no Tyler Kroft. They're down to their third or fourth string tight
they're
end.
having some injury issues.
Which the Chiefs must feel great about, so that's the good news. And on that note, we are going to get out of here. We will be back Sunday, very late night. If you stayed up to watch us in the wee hours of Monday morning, I'm so choked up thinking about it.
Yeah.
Gosh, I was just reminiscing about how great it was last Sunday. We'll be back again this Sunday / Monday morning very early, so stay up late to watch us then. And until then, you can follow all of us on Twitter and online at kansascity.com.
Hey, it's Blair Kirchhoff, and if you're listening to this, you love Kansas City sports, whether it's the Chiefs, Royals, Sporting, Mizzou, KU, or K-State. And no one covers these teams like the Kansas City Star. If you currently subscribe to the paper or have a digital subscription, thank you for your support. And if you don't, here's a great offer. It's called Sports Pass, unlimited digital access to every sports story and video on kansascity.com. And it's just $30 for the first year. It's the best sports value in town, just 8 cents a day or $2.50 a month. You can't beat that. Subscribe now at kansascity.com/sportspass.
Welcome back to Sports Beat KC. I am Chiefs beat writer Brooke Pryor, and on the Skype hotline we have Katherine Terrell, who is the Bengals beat reporter for ESPN.com. Katherine, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I feel like we're both coming off these hangover weird losses. Both teams, lost this weekend, now squaring up for another for the Chiefs at least, Sunday night football game, which means another week of not a lot of sleep. Looking forward to that. So wanted to go ahead and get your thoughts on the Bengals coming into this matchup. Where do you get what sense do you get of where this team is after that loss to the Steelers?
Well, it was definitely a devastating loss. I don't think I've seen the players that upset in a long time. But the bigger issue here is that the Bengals are now down maybe 3 defensive starters. One has a knee injury and is out for a month. One has a concussion. Another has a shoulder injury. I don't know the severity. And after their defense struggled to contain the Steelers on that last drive, they're going to be in for another rude awakening by playing the Chiefs. And I think they know that. So, of course, they're going to be focused. But I do know that last year when they played the Steelers, it was a very emotional loss. Like this year, but then the next week they went out and they laid an egg against a bad Bears team. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond. I just wonder if they have the personnel to actually be able to respond this week.
Yeah, you mentioned those 3 injuries. It's Nick Vigil, linebacker Nick Vigil, cornerback Darqueze Dennard, and safety Sean Williams. Which one of those 3 is going to be the most impactful, especially in the short term?
I definitely think it's going to be Vigil, probably. Sean Williams has a pretty good backup in Clayton Fedulum. He was the one that recovered that fumble, or forced and recovered the fumble against the Colts when Williams was ejected. And I think Fedulum is a fine player. And we also don't know that Williams won't pass protocol and play this week. Vigil definitely won't play, and it's a big loss. Vigil had come a long way in his second year, and the Bengals already have issues with stopping the run. So to lose a linebacker now is really bad timing. And also to lose Dennard is pretty big too, because they don't really have a good next man up at flat corner. So it's really, really just bad injuries and bad spots all around.
And with the defense, they couldn't get a stop in the final minute. Steelers come back to win. Obviously, that doesn't bode great going into a game against a high-powered offense like the Chiefs, but if you could identify one or two problem areas that seem to give them the biggest issue last week and that could potentially pose the biggest issue going forward.
Well, originally their problem area was getting off the field on third down, and I actually thought for the most part they were able to do that against the Steelers. They had some nice, basically goal line stands. They basically contained them until the last minute and 18 seconds, but you had the sense in the stadium that the Steelers were going to score. Everyone knew it, especially with all those defensive players down. Really, against the Steelers, a couple of things. I think, one, they have trouble stopping the run. I think they didn't really stop Connor when they needed to. I think when they weren't getting great pressure on Roethlisberger, or really any pressure on Roethlisberger all game, mostly went with a four-man rush. And then at the end of the game, that's when they decided to be aggressive and go cover zero and run an all-out blitz. And Roethlisberger, once he saw them lined up, knew exactly what they were doing. So really problems all around. And then when you look at that Chiefs matchup, there's just so many good players in so many areas. You're kind of wondering, well, I mean, is Tony McRae going to be able to line up against some of these receivers? It's definitely a tall task.
And you mentioned they weren't able to get pressure on Ben Roethlisberger. Is that an anomaly, or has that been a reoccurring issue that maybe the Chiefs can exploit this week?
Really hit or miss. Their defensive line is supposed to be the strength of their defense. They have a very good defensive line. They've invested a lot of money in Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap. I think Geno Atkins is one of the best defensive tackles in the game, really. He's actually very underrated. So when those two are on, then I think the defense is playing well. And you have young players like Jordan Willis, Sam Hubbard, and Carl Lawson. But there's just some games, it's almost as if they disappear. Now, I don't know what it is about Roethlisberger in particular that allowed the Steelers to just kind of hold up against them. But I think that they should have a bounce-back game. However, you never know. But really, as the Bengals' defensive line goes, so goes the rest of the defense. So they're going to have to play much better this week than they did against Pittsburgh.
It seems like you can't talk about the Bengals' defense without mentioning Vontaze Burfict. He's just seems to attract controversy, week in and week out. How has his season gone so far?
Well, really not great. He was suspended the first 4 games for PEDs. Came back against Miami. I thought he played okay. I mean, it was his first game back. Then against the Steelers, there's just something about the Steelers that makes him act a certain way. And really, you kind of saw right away he was pushing and shoving when he didn't really need to. They just seemed to get inside his head. Now, sometimes I will say Burfict is over-scrutinized, and sometimes I'll say he brought it all upon himself. He really could face a fine or a suspension for that hit to Antonio Brown's head. Not really sure what's going to happen there. I think at minimum he's going to get fined. I just think he's a player that has to understand that he is going to be watched more closely than almost any other player in the entire league because of his past history. And it doesn't really seem to be something that has gotten through to him yet. So I think the Bengals kind of live on the edge with him, wondering if he's going to be available week to week. It makes you wonder if he's worth it. But they signed him to an extension last year, and they believe in him as their starting weak side linebacker, and there's really no one else to turn to at that position. So they kind of have to live and die by whatever Burfict decides to do that week.
If he ends up being suspended this week, how does that change this defense, and who would end up stepping up in his place?
Well, then you go back to what you saw in the first month when he was out. I thought the Bengals did okay. They were 3-1 without him. But I think the linebackers did show some glaring weaknesses that have been shown all the way through training camp when you don't have Burfict or when you don't have Preston Brown, who's their middle linebacker who was injured for a few games. They would either play Jordan Evans or Hardy Nickerson, and Nickerson really struggled against the Dolphins, which is probably why when Nick Vigil went out, Nickerson almost saw no playing time. They instead went to veteran backup Vincent Ray, who's really backed up all the linebacker positions, used to be Burfict's main backup. I wasn't sure if he had kind of gotten replaced by younger players in that spot, but defensive coordinator Terrell Austin said his ankle injury in the preseason kind of limited him, so they didn't want to push him too hard. But I guess this was the point where they decided he was full go because once Vigil got injured, he played basically the rest of the game. He's very capable. I think if Ray plays, they're probably okay. But if the younger players play, you don't really know what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. And looking at the defense, who are one or two guys that Chiefs fans should watch, keep an eye on that could really impact this game?
Definitely cornerback William Jackson. I think he's very talented. He's really starting to come into his own. I think he did a great job against Brown on Sunday, even though he's kind of working through a knee injury that he said has still been bothering him, even though he did play. It was actually kind of funny. We were talking to him the other day, and we were saying, Tyreek Hill can fly. And he goes, well, I can fly too. And we all kind of laughed because he's very confident, but he's going to be their shutdown corner one day. The cornerback our teams pick on is Drake Kirkpatrick. So that's another name to know. I think he did play pretty decently against the Steelers until that he had a late holding penalty that allowed them to convert on 3rd and 10 and eventually score at the end of the game. And then I'm really going through all the cornerbacks, but then the slot corner is unknown, so that's going to be the big deal. Who plays slot corner, how much they pick on him, how they can exploit that, and I bet you the Chiefs are already looking into that now. But those are definitely a couple names, and, of course, Perfect. Perfect is always news no matter what he does.
Mm-hmm. Well, in going over the other side of the ball, the Chiefs have really struggled to stop the run. Are the Bengals built in a way that can exploit that weakness at all, or are they going to have to rely on something else?
I think it depends. Their offensive line is one of those units that's kind of hit or miss depending on the game. They're not great, especially on the right side, but sometimes they can be serviceable, and that's really all you need. The problem is they're at their best when they have their two running backs, Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard, who can kind of be interchangeable. Well, Bernard has been hurt, and it doesn't really seem like he's coming back anytime soon. Of course, we'll know more soon when we actually see if he practices or not, but he hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. And what Bernard can do is be a big part of the passing game. He's really good at the screen game. He makes the Bengals less predictable, I think, when he's able to be in and they have both of them. But, Joe Mixon is also very talented. They didn't play him as much as I thought they would against the Steelers, and it might be because it's only his second game back off a knee surgery. But Mixon also can be involved in the passing game, line up wide as a wide receiver. Very talented, and I think if they have to ride Mixon and they feel like his knee is up to the challenge, then they will.
Mixon was a guy I covered Oklahoma before this. I watched him be one of the most dynamic and dominant running backs in college football. Has he matched that or come anywhere close to replicating that with the Bengals?
I think he's starting to get there. I think you can see it some games. There are just some games where he looks brilliant. I think last year the offensive line really held him back. And not only that, it was this weird thing where they didn't want to lose Jeremy Hill mentally, I think. He was the starter at the time, so they were giving him the start, but then Mixon would come in, and that kind of went on all season until Hill got hurt and went on IR. But, once this year started, it was clear that it was Mixon's job and he was going to be the guy. He's had some good games. He had 95 yards and a touchdown against Colts. He scored against the Steelers, 93 yards against the Dolphins. I think he just kind of, when he got hurt, maybe it flew under the radar a little bit, but he definitely has the talent to be that guy you saw in college.
Well, and then looking at the tight ends, already missing Tyler Eifert, then Tyler Kroft gets hurt. How much of a concern is that position right now?
I think it's a big concern. I think they're kind of down to a bunch of nobodies at the tight end position. CJ Uzomah has really stepped up. He's become their pass-catching tight end, but they miss Eifert, and I think their offense hasn't been the same since he went down against the Falcons. He was such a big red zone threat, and honestly, personally, game aside, a guy I really rooted for to have a good season and make it through the season, because he's had so many injuries, and sometimes you just want to see guys do well. And so it was definitely hard to watch when he went down with yet another injury. But they had to sign tight end Matt Langle. They have Mason Schreck, but he doesn't play much, and Croft was a good blocking tight end, so it's kind of a mess. So at the beginning of the season, they got rid of fullback Ryan Hewitt, who was kind of an 8-back who could play tight end too, and they're probably missing him now as well. He's with the Colts, so it's kind of down to bare bones right now, but they'll figure it out. They have no choice.
Well, and then looking at Andy Dalton, unlike the quarterback here in Kansas City that has all of the national attention, is just you turn on, ESPN, any of the ESPN or NFL Network channels, and if he isn't being talked about right then, his name's probably going to come up in the next segment. Unlike Patrick Mahomes, Andy Dalton seems like he's flying under the radar, is perennially flying under the radar. But how has he looked this season? His numbers look pretty good. He's had some interceptions. But what kind of season is Andy Dalton having?
I really think he's having a very good season. A lot of those interceptions the numbers don't tell the whole story. It's been a bunch of very weird interceptions, like tip passes, or on one, the wide receiver stopped running his route because he thought the ball wasn't coming to him. Another one was a Hail Mary at the end of the Panthers game. I'm pretty sure 3 or 4 of them were batted and tipped. So it's very weird. When you see the pure number, you think, oh, he's not playing well, but I think he's having one of his best seasons in years. Against the Steelers was a little hit or miss, but the thing about Dalton now is when they need him to execute a game-winning touchdown drive, he can do it. He did it against the Falcons, and he did it against the Steelers until the final minute. He drove him down the field. He did what he needed to do, and the defense couldn't hold on. And when you're sitting there listening to fans say, did the offense score too fast, which I always think is kind of a ridiculous argument, then you know your offense is doing its part. And he's going to have to do his part this week because he's going to have to outscore the Chiefs, since I don't know if the defense can stop them. But, yeah, people don't like to talk about Dalton when he's doing well. I think he's not the most interesting person nationally. He doesn't really make waves. He never says much. He just kind of does his job, and that's about it. So my theory is that he's more interesting when he's struggling. People love to talk about bad Andy, but I think it's been mostly good Andy this year.
Well, and who are some of his favorite targets? I know Tyler Eifert is the guy that when I think of Andy Dalton, Eifert's the next one up. But as we've already covered, he's not playing. So who is Andy Dalton looking for most often?
Well, I've always referred to A.J. Green as a security blanket, the most talented receiver they have, and probably the most talented player on the team. A.J. is always going to be the first guy they go to, but he's also going to be the first guy double covered by the opposing team. So when that happens, they look to Tyler Boyd to pick up the underneath stuff, and I think Boyd has become so reliable. Over the past few months, really, he was their second-round pick in 2015, I believe, and he's just come so far, really, since he caught that touchdown pass on 4th and 12 to beat the Ravens at the end of last season. And suddenly, you look at him now, he doesn't drop passes, he picks up the third downs. So it's really AJ and then Tyler Boyd. Those are their 2 biggest targets right now, and we'll see what happens with John Ross when Ross comes back, because right now he's injured and not playing.
Okay. Well, going into this season, when I saw the Bengals on the schedule, looking at all the other matchups, I was not super fired up about this game. And then as the season has kind of progressed, clearly both teams picking up steam, have some momentum, although now they're both coming off losses. The game's important enough that it's flexed to Sunday night last week, made that announcement. What are you expecting out of this matchup?
Honestly, this has been a matchup I predicted as a Chiefs win ever since we had to do our preseason predictions months ago. And I still feel that way simply because the Bengals are beaten up. They have to play the Chiefs after they play the Steelers. It's a primetime game, which they haven't historically played well in. And I just don't think it's a great matchup for the Bengals. I think if somehow the Bengals offense can just score at will, maybe we're talking about a different story, and maybe it'll be like the Patriots, a Chiefs game the other day, but I'm not quite sure their defense is prepared to stop the weapons the Chiefs have. I think it's just one of those games you kind of look at and you think, okay, just not a good matchup for them, which would have been fine if they had beat the Steelers, but since they didn't, then all of a sudden they're kind of reeling and looking at maybe their first losing streak of the season. So to beat this team at night, prime time, on the road, the Bengals are going to have to play the very best they've played all season, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And it seems like the Chiefs, every game has been a shootout, other than I think the 49ers game was a little was lower scoring, or the Jacksonville game was lower scoring. I'm getting them all mixed up. But do you have a score prediction? Or I think just do you have a score prediction for Sunday?
I haven't made one yet, but off the top of my head, I would probably say like Chiefs 35, Bengals 23. Something around there is probably what I would say when I make my final prediction in a few days.
Yeah, I think I was leaning somewhere between, I'm going to go Chiefs 38, Bengals 27, just because I've seen this defense play, and they do love to give the other team a whole bunch of points. So I'll give them a couple more. Katherine, until the game on Sunday, where can people who want to keep tabs on the Bengals follow your work?
You can follow me at cat_Terrell or at ESPN.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on here, and we will see you on Sunday.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to heading over there soon.
Awesome. Well, and for everyone else who wants to follow our Chiefs coverage, you can keep tabs on me on Twitter and online at kansascity.com.